Hello! I'm going to show you how to make the little baby, fairy baby, from one of my patterns today. There should be a link to the pattern in the description, and we'll get what you're going to need is wool felt, and I prefer to use the finest thread possible, and this is clover silk thread, and scissors obviously, and a needle and thread. This is all hand sewn. The pattern page, I have put all the pieces that you'll need so that you don't have to flip the pattern or count pieces. So what I do is I use double face tape and put it on the pattern and then place that on the felt to make it easier to cut these out, because it just really doesn't work to trace around them because the pieces are so small. You can roughly cut out the pattern piece and then apply the tape to the back side. This is what I'm using. There's already fuzz stuck to it. Then place it on your felt. Probably tell that I am reusing a piece of felt here. Now, I'm not using my sewing scissors for this because I am cutting through the paper and the sticky tape. Okay, you are going to want to match up the F to the A, which is the top of the cheek here to the top of the cheek on this gusset. This is the back of the body, and this is the front of the body. And if you follow the letters, it'll keep you oriented the right way. I have knotted the end of the thread, and I am going to make sure that that's on the inside. So I was watching myself sew through the camera, so that I made sure I kept it in focus, but unfortunately, I think my stitches are ending up a little oddly large. So the depth that you go in is probably a millimeter for your whip stitch. You can also do a blanket stitch, which can be really neat and tidy looking. Okay, I finished around the first side down to, what is that, point H and E? Nope, it's not E, it's C. Point H, set down here on the pattern pieces, point H and C come together right here. So stitch down to there, and I'm working on the other side where I've gone around the cheek and I'm going down the body, and you'll note there's a little bit of a gap there that looks like we're going to have to ease it in, because in order to end up in the same spot and keep things equal. So I lined up the back of the neck here and the back of the body, and I pinned it to make it easier to ease this in equally. So I'm going to press on the body as I stitch. It's probably not something that's going to stay in focus for me here, but maybe we'll get lucky. So I am trying to keep my stitches at a millimeter apart and a millimeter into the body, not any bigger than that. But I mean, you do what's easiest for you. If you need to take your stitches a little bigger, go ahead and do it. It is probably not going to be a problem. I have not convinced my daughter to even try this one. To know it, she struggles with the smaller stitches. All those years training, making sales, she just has like a trained size of stitch. And it's great when it works for what you're doing. Okay, so double checking here. My pen is not holding this as well as I hoped. Come on. Stay in focus. So when you're doing this, you want to keep all your knots and your ends of the thread to the inside. So you can, you know, like do your tie off here. Let's stay on the camera. But you'll want to take the thread end once you've tied the knot to the inside. So you'll just stitch to the inside. And of course the silk came off. You also might want to have some wax, beeswax handy to rethread. After you've been sewing for a while, the ends of the silk thread tend to splay out and you need the wax to pull them back in. So here we are. We've got both cheeks and the body front stitched. And the reason why I have you do this in down both sides is I found that if I did one side, like the whole thing all the way around, and then tried to do the other side, the baby would end up askew and they would look really funny. And I mean, if you want to do it that way, that is totally up to you. Just I'm giving you the reason why, and you make your own choice. Okay, so now you're going to take the gusset down, and you see how the gusset has the point here that is the base of the head. I believe that is marked D on both sides, and you'll see mine's uneven. I did not get that cut out even on both sides, but it kind of works itself out. So you'll want to match up with the point here at the back of the neck, which is J. So the little indents really help, and you'll want to stitch. And this is actually the top of the cheek is where your eyes go. So you want to stitch around to here and then on down where this ends here, point E, I think. Having a hard time seeing that too, E. Then when you go to do this side, you'll want to stop. You'll want to stop right here. You want to leave the second side open. And if you're stitching, as I've shown in the pattern, if you're going to stitch your eyes and mouth like what's done on here, those are simple little lines for each eye and then the mouth, and they are done by stitching through that hole. I'm not going to stitch this one with stitched details. I'm going to try and do an alternative with paint, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, I've finished the first side around to down here, and I went ahead and went up this side 2 stitches so that the base was anchored here, and you can see my thread is just determined to stick out, but you know, you tuck it in as you go when you're stitching it up later. So now I'm going to come back over here at our little eye line just above the cheek, and I'm going to go around and stop right here. This is, in the instructions, I tell you not to cut your thread, that you stop here and leave that tail of thread that supposedly you have on your needle. That's not strictly necessary. I just don't like stopping and starting the thread a lot. It was just something that entered my thought at the time when I was doing the pattern, and honestly, I think that you could knot it off and bury the thread on the inside and start another thread, and it might be easier for you. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to do today so that I don't have to fight with trying to keep the thread out while I stuff. Okay, we have our opening for, do you want to stuff the head if you're going to sew the eyes and mouth on. I'm using these very pointy tweezers, and they are probably not the best. The points tend to get stuck on there on the felt. So, you know, like your more blunt tweezers that you have. Okay, we're just frustrated with that. Are probably better. These have no teeth on them. It's a hemostat without teeth. I don't know how common they are, but I got these from the Featherweight shop. It's put a link to that. I have no affiliation with them, and I make no money for recommending them. It's just where I got the product, and I love the product. I use it for stuffing all the different size dolls. It is very handy, as you can see, because they're blunt, and so they don't get caught on the felt. They don't poke into the felt, tear the felt, and because they don't have teeth, good for some of the same reasons. Also, I will put a link to where I get my felt. This is called Holland wool felt. It is a merino wool, and I get it from a small company. If you're not in the United States, then please source your wool felt someplace more close to you. Don't try and import it from the U.S. That's a little ridiculous, especially since it comes from Europe in the first place. I'm going to go ahead and try and stuff this bigger piece in here. Ooh, yay, it worked. Didn't make it lumpy either. So you want to keep, as you stuff this, you want to make sure your face stays smooth. You're going to try and, you can see that bigger stitch right there. Push your seams out to where they're somewhat flat as you stuff it, so that your cheeks become more rounded. Sometimes after the fact, I will take and set my iron to the wool silk setting, and just run the iron over to take down the I guess I want to say that it's pointed, but it's squared off there. Anyway, so after you get your head fully stuffed, you'll want, if you're going to embroider the face, you'll want to go ahead and do that using the opening so that you can bury your knots and whatnot. Bury the ends of the embroidery floss on the inside. I also have, in the instructions, I show that I've taken the thread in the back. I don't put a knot, or I might put a knot on it, but the thread goes in the back, you do the eyes and the thread comes out. Then you go and you do the mouth, and there probably was a knot on the end so that it got caught in the stuffing or in the head someplace. But then I just tie the two ends together from each process. Okay, so since I am not going to stop and stitch eyes and a mouth or anything, I'm going to go ahead and stuff the rest of the body and sew up this opening. All right, I've got the little peanut all sewn up, the head and the body, the back, and my iron is on, and I wanted to kind of demo keeping your fingers clear of the hot pad. Just press the seams on there. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, you could always use a tool, although I kind of find the tool more awkward. Yeah, maybe you have a better tool. I also often use the edge of the iron. I hope that's because it keeps my other hand away. The thing about trying to match your thread to your felt is it's with the natural fibers. Okay, so you have a limited number of colors available in the felt. And then you go and you look at this silk thread, and there are silk threads that come in a lot more colors, but I haven't found them to be as good a quality. I really like the clover quality, but there is not a lot of color choices. So I go for close enough. In fact, I used to sew with black, white, and gray threads only, just because that's what was easiest for me to keep on hand. Okay, and as you can see now that it's ironed, maybe you can. It's a little less fuzzy at the edges, a little more rounded. And I'm just going to say that no matter how your little body comes out, they still look adorable. We're going to set aside the body and grab a couple of leg pieces, line them up, and then you're going to leave your opening back here at the back of the leg from, say, about the ankle to almost the end. You want to come around this corner right here, but you want to leave it mostly open, and then lightly stuff it. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, I have stuffed this little leg with about, I don't know, 6 pieces of felt that I've cut up into tiny little pieces. So there's really not a lot of stuffing inside this leg. As you can see, it's not real thick and poofy. So now you just want to stitch up and close it. Do the same thing with the other leg and both arms. They're all done in the same fashion of just stitching around the edge, leaving an opening, stuffing it, and then closing it up. Okay, I finished the little arms, let's see. And I only used 3 or 4 tiny little pieces of felt in there, but honestly, you don't need to stuff the arms. So now I also took the time to go ahead and paint the face. I even gave him a little ears. And I used Posca for the matching the ears and the nose. And I used, just dropped an arm, Copic pens for the eyes and mouth. And I've had these for a really long time, but I think I got them on Amazon. So for putting the arms and legs on, you're going to take the needle in through the back and have it come out where you want to attach the leg. Now, often I will pull this down and leave a tail, and I'll cut the tail off once I've got this knotted. I'm using all-purpose thread, and I am going to knot it in place here. I have also coated it in beeswax. Now I will pull up on this a little, if I can get a hold of it. And then the end, it just disappears into the body. Then you take a leg, making sure that your toes are facing forward. So face, toes, same orientation. Snug it up a little bit. It's not really important that you pull it snug right now. Then we're going to go back in. Okay, I did just snug it. Now you can see that my needle is coming out in the wrong place on the other side, so I'm going to back that back out and try and get it in the same general vicinity as the first leg. Then, while the needle is still within the body, sometimes this is easier to just go ahead and put that on there and check to make sure your toes are facing forward and that you're approximately in the same spot and everybody looks even before you go ahead and poke that needle through. Pull it up snug. Then you're going to go around again. So trying to keep your legs all in the same orientation as before and going through. Your thread isn't going to want to stay snug until you've gone around again. But you're going to do all these steps, you know, kind of pulling it just in case your needle goes through the thread. You don't want to risk piercing it and not being able to pull it snug. Now that last tug was probably a little too much. Okay. Now, when I go back through, we're holding our shape, and I am going to exit here, pulling the needle up there, not through the leg. Now you can just knot, you can knot it here on the outside if that's easier for you. That's totally okay. I try and knot it back here just to keep it hidden. It's not necessary, it's just an aesthetic thing I prefer. And I will go ahead and pull this up. It's also a little challenging to do if your threads decided to be all over the place. Okay. It's coming up there. My loop, I'm trying to keep this where it will actually snug down. Sometimes, yeah, I thought so. It's gonna give me some trouble. Okay, We snug down in there finally. Now you take this and you come out. So I went in, not through the leg, but behind the leg, and out where I want to put the arm. Make sure that your thread doesn't get caught around anything, like a foot. Then you're going to go ahead and place a knot here so that when you snug up your arms, you aren't tugging on the legs and they're cause the body to squish up sideways. Although I'm going to just say again, even if your bodies are all lopsided and whatnot, it still looks cute. We don't have to have perfection. We can have the joy of having put it together ourselves, and it's all good. Okay, we've got one arm on there. Oops, I was starting to drop it. Go back in, out the other side. Pull on that a little bit, try not to stab myself. I kind of feel like his arms are a little high. So we are going to pull that off. You can actually get it to go back through if you keep your needle straight and your thread straight and just kind of go, you can undo. All right, so I'll just go in a little higher on the arm. Get back in there. Did I do that again? I did. I went a little low again. Are we straight? No, we're not straight. Re-aim. Okay. Looks pretty even across there. And put the other arm on. Check to see if we look kind of even. My hands are a little twisted. Yeah, that looks good. I have done it again. I went in the wrong side. Okay, I hit dead center on this arm. Well, we're gonna just make up for it the next round. And we're gonna just go really close, but not too close. There is space between. Okay, you want to pull that little loop out. Don't get tangled around anything. Go back around again by going through that arm. And this time I'm going to make sure that I'm over a little bit more on this so we get a better grip on the outside, I guess. Okay, and this is going to be the last one where we come out behind the arm. Make sure your thread doesn't get tangled on anything. Knot it. Now you can see my thread is all around the doll's legs and everything. I'm gonna make sure that when I pull this up, I unhook it from everything. Okay, we'll put it that way, maybe that'll help. And I could have gone with a shorter thread and less loops would have been an issue. Okay, then you're going to go back in here, and I'm exiting without going through the arm, the other arm. Pull that up. Did it again. And then you cut off thread carefully. Okay, now we're ready to make this little one. Yeah, and you can always give it a little squish here and there. It'll change shape, but our arms can go up and touch the top of our heads. Well, maybe not the top. We got short arms. It's a baby problem. We can cover our mouth. Whoops. Okay. Little legs. Bend forward, down. Nice joints. Okay, we need a diaper now. So we're gonna just take this diaper and we're gonna, ooh. Actually, on this, I just start in the back. I don't have a knot because I'm going to just go through here about 3 times and it will hold on its own. And you can clip the excess. In fact, this is a method of tacking, or I just went the 4th time. When you start stitching, in some of my patterns, I describe this as a way to anchor the thread instead of using a knot. And then, you know, if you had more to sew, you just keep going. So then we're going to go over here to the other side and do the same thing. So trying to keep it wrapped over the same amount, not catch anything. And this kind of ends up looking like a miniature diaper pin. That's why I use a thread that you can see. You can always use white thread. And there we go. Gonna pull this way. Okay, I'll just pull that down. There. One diaper. We'll see whether or not I even got close. Come on, little footsies. One set of toes. It's because you're having to hold it here and film it that it is not working. We're actually making progress here. Got a hold of each toes. Diaper almost there. You can also stitch this in place on the doll, but I don't so that I can pull them off, because you run the risk of stitching it to the doll. Up to you. And there we are, all finished. Happy crafting.